So she was the reason why you became positive. So you leave at 14. By the way, how many kids were you guys? How big was the family?
I had a brother that was 8 years older. He had left already.
So he was in the military.
No, he was studying and working.
He started studying and working.
Yeah.
So you were by yourself living with mom before you left at 14 years old.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and
but my father was there in the meantime. And when I was 14, he came back when I was 7.
So from 7 to 14, your father was there.
Correct.
What influence did your father have on you?
Well, very, very high demand person. Work hard, do everything right, everything with values. I read the Bonhoeffer book where Metaxas tells about Bonhoeffer, which was a very rich family, sitting around a table, and the attitude was, don't talk unless you have something important to say. This was true in a very rich family. That was also true in a very poor family in our house. Sit down, eat, do everything right.
Wow, lots of order.
Don't do it unless it's done right.
Is that a German thing, or is that a Schulze thing?
Believe me, it was in our house. How German it is, I don't know.
Got it. Yeah, Bonhoeffer is an amazing story. My pastor, Dudley Rutherford, bought me a book 20 years ago, 18 years ago, to read on Bonhoeffer. An incredible story on what he went through. So, but going back to it, so Dad was order, structure, system. Mom was attitude, positivity. Everything's going to work itself.
And love.
Love from mom.
Oh, total.
How did she show it?
By telling, by hugging, by holding, by saying I love you. There was I don't think there was a day where I wasn't told 10 times that she loves me. I mean and that of course plays a role too. I can see that's how I am today with my wife or with my children. You know.
Same way?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Are you more like your dad or your mom?
My mom.
More like your mom?
My mom, yeah. But in my intensity of doing things, I'm my dad.
You're your dad.
Yeah.
At 14, when you left to go to the apprenticeship, and how long are you away? Are you coming back home? Are you seeing the family? What does that process look like?
Every 3-4 months.
Every 3 or 4 months, you're seeing them.
Yeah.
And this place you went to, where was it? What did they teach you?
Oh well, my mother took me there, and the first thing that I meet is the general manager of the hotel. Now, in Germany, the general manager was a god, understand? And he told me, he spoke to us for 2 minutes, and the only message was, now, you are here to study and learn how to become a servant to very important ladies and gentlemen, our guests. That's what I wanted. That's why I wanted. That was my dream, to live in a beautiful surrounding and serve wonderful people. Known people. But the next person was the head waiter of the hotel, the maitre d', the head waiter, whom I actually would work for. And he changed my life in 2 sentences. Totally. Now, mind you, I was 14. I didn't know it in the moment, but he lived those 2 sentences, and it was overwhelming. When you're 14, you're being formed still.
Sure.
And he said at the time, the first thing he said, now, young man, tomorrow show up at 7 a.m. If I meant 1 minute after 7, I would tell you so. Now, it translated in, after I could see, when we say something, we do it correctly, and we mean it, and we do everything right here. And then he said, and don't come to work tomorrow. Come here to create excellence. Now, I didn't get that. That went right over my head. I said, wait a minute. Do I have to do something else than I thought? I thought I would have to wash dishes, clean floors, and so on. Yes, it did. But with
that
excellence.
Comes with it. Got it. So what was the sentence? Come here to work with excellence?
Come here. Don't come to work. Come here to create excellence.
To create excellence. And how long did he stay as your mentor? How many years?
3.5 years.
3.5 years you worked under him.
Yeah. And he formed my life and everyone. When he said create excellence, he meant don't come here to fulfill a function. Come here for a high intent. Your function, and I'm zealous about that today. I wouldn't hire people to fulfill a function. I hire them for purpose, for high intent. He, for example, he made it very clear, our function may be to bring and serve food and beverage. Our intent is to instill well-being in people. So that, for my life, I don't do anything without purpose. And I think you're not, in fact, I make it very, very clear, and I use the same phrase than he did. The chairs on which you sit are fulfilling a function. You are a human being. You don't fulfill a function without purpose. And I find it even immoral that we as companies hire people to fulfill a function rather than to join us in our vision and our purpose.
On a vision, a mission, a purpose, something bigger than us.
Purpose, that's right.
So you picked that up from him. Did you spend a lot of time with that general manager or not that much? You were more spending time because the general manager was the guy.
Once in a while he passed by and said, good morning.
How serious was he? Was that a very common thing in Germany? Super serious, super disciplined.
Yes.
Were those the qualities?
Yes, absolutely.
I lived in Germany for a year and a half.
Absolutely.
In Erlangen. I was in Erlangen,
Erlangen.
right outside of Nuremberg.
Yeah.
And it was in 1989 to 1990, and I went to school for 2 years. You know, it was a very, military-like, Achtung, it was a very, be ready for it.
Sure.
It was a different intensity you got from them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even right now, our son plays soccer, and we have an option to sending 2 different places, to Germany or to Spain. All the coaches are sending Germany is more disciplined. Spain, he'll learn the game, but have fun. But Germany is very much, you better get your act together. Yeah. Yes. So what happens after that? So what happens? You're there for 3.5 years. What do you do next?
And next, it was pretty common and also recommended again from that head waiter to work seasons in various great hotels in Europe. So I went out and worked in Bern, in the Bellevue Palace, one of the great hotels of the world, in Lausanne, in the Bourgeois Palace. I worked Holland America Line for 8 months. I worked in Paris. I stayed there 2.5 years in the Plaza Athénée, which was one of the great hotels in the world. Worked in the Savoy in London. And in the Savoy, as I worked as a waiter, a guest said, "You're a great waiter. Do you want to come to America?" And I said, "Sure." Now, if he would have said Zimbabwe, I would have said sure too.
You just wanted to leave?
No,
wanted an opportunity?
I was young.
Yeah. How old were you at that time?
Capture the world. And at that time, I was 23.
Okay. 23. Okay.
Capture the world.
Sure.
Be and see the world. Capture the world. Learn new things. So he said, all right, give me your name. I will send you papers. We are opening a new hotel in Houston. And once you get the papers, go to the embassy. And that's what I did. And in the embassy, so they, at that time, immigrant at that time, me, I went through a physical, careful physical. I went to an oral test. I went to a written test. Yes. And in the evening, they gave me some...
Get a job.
Yes. And in the evening, they gave me some papers and asked me, when will you go to America? And I said, when I get my papers. And he said, you have them in your hand. And then I took the ship on which I had worked as a passenger.
Stop it.
Yeah.
So you go with the ship to the States.
Yeah. Oh, at the time, there were no planes at the time.
Right. Makes sense.
Basically.
Makes sense. I keep forgetting you're born in 39.
Yeah.
Times are different when you're born in 39. You know, it's a very different world. When was the first time? I remember you said when you first started working at the hotel, you're like, I wanted to work in luxury. I'm going to meet people. I'm going to meet these interesting people, powerful people. Who was the first person you met that was a celebrity that you recognized saying, oh my God?
A very famous Sepan, who was a very famous soccer player before that.
Sepan.
That was more important than, I met all the politicians of the time, if that was Adenauer or Horst, and so at the time, everybody was there. That was the hotel where you were, was that one. And the general manager was right. The guests sitting there, all of them were important. That was the place to be. And it was at the same time a spa hotel and so on. So when I met Sepan, that was meeting a great famous soccer player was more important than meeting all the others.
Of course, politicians, the leaders.
Sure. Yeah. Later, for example, I worked in the late 50s, 60 in Paris. You name it. If it was Soraya at the time, or Chris Kelly or Gary Cooper. I served them all.
Grace Kelly.
Grace Kelly, absolutely.
Did you ever serve Onassis?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure.
Onassis.
I served them all. The Begum and so on. Those were the guests.
What did you notice? Was there a pattern? What you noticed with this life of the rich and famous? What patterns did you notice with
them?
The
pattern was that we who served them didn't really exist.
Got it. Was that the mindset or was that the reality?
That was the reality because they were so used to people. They were just, we were just there. But that was okay with me. I had no problem with that.
Interesting. Got it. Because at that time, you're not yet Horst Schulze. You're just a young man working there.
I wanted to, and I knew that when I was dreaming about it, and that I was take care of very important people. And one or the other recognizes you. And I had an experience of this. When I worked, the first day I worked actually in the restaurant where I started. Mm-hmm. There were a couple sitting there, and they saw, of course, my beginning, that my knees were shaking and so on. And the gentleman told me, "Oh, come here, you're doing a great job," and gave me $5 mark, which was a huge amount of tip at the time.
This is what year?
That was 1954.
Okay.
That was a huge amount of money, and so, but the encouragement of that moment
is what mattered.
Was traumatic.
Unbelievable. Just to see that somebody is encouraging you, even though you think you're nervous. Was he somebody or was he just a businessman?
I had no idea.
You had no idea who it was. So it wasn't a famous person.
No.
Was there any famous person that was super complimentary that left an impression on you when you were younger? Who was the kindest to you?
Well, probably because we're told so, I'm not quite sure. There was Konrad Adenauer, who was a guest several times there, always with others, and of course security around him. But he looked at you and said, "Good morning." He looked at you.
Got it.
And he didn't just pass you by.
You existed.
You actually felt that you existed.
Interesting.
And I found that very encouraging too. And so we all liked him for this very nothing that he looked at and said, recognized us. But a huge change in that moment, that particular job too, again with that maitre d', typical German, you learn this work, once a week you go to a school of your trade, in this case hotel school, where all the kids from the area came. And after 2 years there, the teacher asked us to write an essay, what we now think about our business. Going back to work that night, I was cleaning a table and I watched that maitre d' approaching a very important table. Well, they were all important. And in that moment I realized, I'd seen it before, I never realized it. The guests on the table were proud that he came to them. Now, he was a very tall man, he worked in tails and he worked fantastic. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wait a minute, this is a reversal. Why are they, we are here, we're the servants. And I thought about that. I had to write an essay that night for that school. And I thought about it and I wrote the essay. And for the first time in my life, I came to the realization, which kind of formed my life too. The reason those guests were proud that he came to them, because he had defined himself as a first-class gentleman. And I realized, wait a second, I can define myself, even if I was a dishwasher all my life. I don't have to be a bum. I still can define myself as a first-class gentleman.
How does one do that?
By respecting others, by being honorable, by not going against authority, if you will, by coming to work 5 minutes early and stay maybe 5 minutes later, and say, I respect what I'm doing here, by saying good morning to your boss and not ignore, not hate him, but be thankful that he exists, because otherwise I wouldn't have a job. So I still can define myself and do everything I do a little better than anybody else.
As simple as it is, how powerful is that?
Don't complain about business. It's ludicrous. When I started Ritz-Carlton, I only took the job. Remember, I had a great job. I had golden handcuff. I had everything. In fact, people may hear it, that worked with me, I was a young star in that company in Hyatt at the time, in charge of 65 hotels in the United States, food and beverage operations and so on. And I left for a dream, for a purpose, to create the finest hotel company in the world. Because they told me you can do what you want, basically operationally. And I went there for that purpose. But I had to ask myself, is that purpose good for all concerned? First of all, is it good for the owners? Because believe it or not, friends, you won't have a job without some owner. That was clear to me. Number two, is it good for every employee? It wouldn't be good for the employee if it wouldn't be good for the owner, because we wouldn't have a job. Mm-hmm. Is it good for every customer? Is it good for society as a whole? And I question myself, would God approve? Once I have this, can answer that clearly as yes, I cannot compromise it anymore. And now I have to find myself as the person who can do it. That's it. It is not a matter of just having a vision. That vision has to be of value to all concerned.
That makes sense.
Success is built on how you think. Influence is built on how you show up. Every detail matters because presence speaks before you do. This is more than style. The future looks bright.
If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.